trusty sidekick, Chris.
That's me. I'm a young whippersnapper sidekick.
And imagine sidekicks and comics. Let's talk about we talked about European comics, manga, Japanese comics, British comics, American comics. Have we forgot anything?
Canadian comics.
Canadian
Yeah,
maple flavored comics.
yeah. So we're gonna just talk about Todd McFarlane this entire episode?
Yes, we are. We are. Yes. Yes. So when you think of Canadian comics, what do you think of?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is Captain Canuck.
That's what I was going to say also. Yes.
You know,
Yes.
the funny thing is, every Canadian knows Captain Canuck, but how many Canadians have actually read a Captain Canuck comic?
That's what I was going to say. I don't think I've read a Canuck, even though I used to work at a comic store and saw those books and stuff. Um, I don't know. It did not interest me.
I read a few, and they're
What's your
okay.
opinion?
I mean, the thing, it's hard to say if it's good or bad because it's been written for so long by so many different people that it's like saying,
But
like, you know, there's so much of it out there. Like I remember there was a few different stories. Like I read a few anthology type books of Captain Canuck, and some of the stories were
and
good, and some of them
and
weren't.
before the person hopefully he's watching it doesn't get angry, we have to ask his opinion. Ho Chi Anderson wrote some Captain Canuck
Yeah, yeah,
stories.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm
So
actually doing something bad. I'm looking it up because I'm trying to figure out who invented Captain Canuck.
it's Richard Comley, wasn't it?
Is it? I think it was.
Yeah.
The cartoonist Ron Leishman and
No.
Richard Comley.
Yeah, Richard Com. Okay. I don't remember the other name. No, but Richard
No, no.
Comley, I remember clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny though, but it is very iconic. Like I even went to Giant Tiger like last year or
Yes,
so
I saw your posting on that. Yes.
and bought a T-shirt. I got a Captain Canuck T-shirt. So it's like, it's definitely there's a certain pride in Canada for Captain Canuck, but again, there's a complete
See,
lack
I'm going to be
of
honest with you. Captain Canuck is the one of the earliest comics I remember, Canadian comics. But to me, I have to say, and this is nothing, and everyone also, nothing against Dave Sim and his comic company, but I think to me, the iconic comic company that impressed me was Vortex.
hmm. Well, it's funny because there are a few actual like as far as companies go, there's a few. Isn't there a toy company that produced comics for a while? Spin Master?
Spin Master.
Yeah, there was a toy company in Toronto that then started to produce comic books for some of their licensed stuff. And actually, Dale Keown started there, I think. I think he
Oh,
started Spin
really?
Master. I think that's the name of the company. And it's just basically, like I said, it was a toy company out of Toronto. And because there was so much talent in Toronto, which there is like animation industry and everything, there's a huge amount of drawing talent. And a lot of cartoonists come
I
from
don't remember
Toronto.
that one. I just
And
remember I remember Vortex. I remember Dave Sims' company. I don't remember the name of it. And then the company that who was the publisher of Captain Canuck? I can't remember that.
I, it's changed a few times. Like, I don't think,
Yes, yes. I think recently I think it's a big publisher that's doing it,
yeah,
isn't
it's like
it?
IDW or something like that.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't remember. I think originally it was just self-published. Like I think they had like Canuck Comics or something like that.
And you know what? Only in the recent times, and I have to say, this is just me, not thinking about Canadian comics and stuff. Didn't realize how much golden age Canadian comics there were and
Yeah,
heroes.
yeah, there's like older stuff for sure. And I mean, to some degree, we can almost take Superman too.
If you want to go that far, yes.
I mean, there is Canadian ties to Superman, and there have been stories that the Toronto Star is the
I heard
reference
about that. Yes, I heard about that.
for the
Yeah,
Daily Planet. So it's like
yeah.
there is ties to it for sure. So there is. I mean, but that's when you get into creators. I mean, you've got Dale Keown, you've got Todd McFarlane, so and there's a bunch of others that are like do mainstream American comic books that are Canadians.
Well, even John Byrne, and which influenced Canadian comic in Alpha Flight, you know. or characters.
I almost the thing about Alpha Flight is I feel like it's almost whenever I read an Alpha Flight comic book, I feel like that's what Americans think Canadians are like.
I think so. Yes, yes.
It's funny though, because like other than Captain Canuck, there aren't too many Canadian comic books that take place in Canada.
No, no, there isn't. No. Even the stuff that Dave Sim did, even Vortex Comics, everything, they're just, they're just a publisher.
Yeah, and a lot of the times, I think a lot of times, I mean, not to put down these things, because a lot of times these people just create their own worlds, which is
The only one that was set in Toronto and had Toronto influences um um
Scott Pilgrim.
Scott Pilgrim, that's it. Yes, where I had Honest Ads, Toronto and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big one. That's actually a really big one
Yeah, big one, yes.
for Toronto and Canadian creators. It's I mean I
But as for Canadian comics, wherever it's published, not set in Toronto or Canada, as for Canadian publishers, I wonder if there's any publishers away from Toronto and stuff like that that, you know, I haven't heard of much really. I mean, there's
yeah,
a
I
lot of
mean
independent stuff,
there's indie stuff for
indie
sure.
ones. Yeah, there's a lot of indie stuff. There's a lot of
Yeah,
indie stuff that, we could post here. But like I said, for me as a teenager, I remember going into a comic shop and buying, I think, Mr. X and Paradox and what else? Something else. Kelvin Mace, I think. And I bought those and I go, then look inside and I go, hey, Toronto address in here.
yeah.
And you know what? And one day I looked up the address and went and looking for it. And I did actually go to the office.
Did you knock on the door or did you just walk by?
They let me in. They let me in, yes. And
Wow.
they showed me around. And to this day, I don't remember who it was. I remember there
Wow.
was a lady, receptionist or whatever, and a couple of guys that were working there. They showed me around.
Occasionally, when I worked at the animation studio, people would show up.
Yeah.
If we were working on a show, somebody would find out that they were doing it in Toronto and find out that they were doing it in the studio and ask if they could come take a look. And if we weren't busy, you'd be like, yeah, sure.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was so grateful for the staff at Vortex, and I remember it was above Silver Snail, their offices, at the old Silver Snail on Queen Street, and I just walked up, knocked on the door, went in. They were nice, showed me around, and this is I can't remember how old I was. I think maybe 14. And at that time, even as a 14-year-old, the artwork impressed me. I mean, and at that time, I honestly I had no idea who the artists were on the books. I mean, I know Ty Templeton did stuff. I think Seth did stuff later on. Hernandez brothers did work in Mr. X and stuff like that. And the artwork impressed me. Dean Motter did work on that. So when I went into the office, I can't remember who the guys were. I mean, that's how, I think I just, was so overwhelmed by, them even inviting me and letting me look around.
Funny because the Toronto sort of comic book scene is very casual.
It
Like
is, it is.
I have memories of going to Silver Snail and talking to Ty Templeton all the time.
Oh,
And
Ty Templeton used to come into the stores I used to work at all the time, and
yeah,
you know, and super nice guy.
super nice guy. Like super, we
Same
should
thing
try
with
and get him
Steph.
on here.
Steph used to come into the Curry's art store when we worked there.
I
He used to
remember
come
that for
there
sure.
all the time. Super nice guy.
Yeah, yeah. Like I've never, I can't, and I've met Todd McFarlane and Dale Keown a couple of times, and every single time, totally nice guys, like totally willing to give their time. Like I met Todd McFarlane a few times, and one of the times I met him, I got passes to the preview showing of Spawn the movie, like the one way back, and he was there, and it was a big crowd. Like Marilyn Manson was in the crowd, all the animators were in the crowd. Like it was a real like Hollywood. This was the premiere, and they did it in Toronto, and I got tickets to it. And Todd McFarlane, there was a group of us that were in art school, and we all got passes. And so we went, and he spent so much time with us. Like he came down,
That's
like
great. Yeah.
we went up to him. We're like, oh, just want to say, thanks for, how, we're congratulations with the movie and everything. He goes, oh, where are you guys from? We talked about school and everything, drawing and everything like that. And like literally, there's like celebrities in the audience, and he took time to just talk to us, and that was really cool. So, I know a lot of people say he's sort of got a bit of a reputation in the business.
No, but you know what? I'll tell you personally, meet or greet that person and, make your own judgment. I don't fall for when people say he's a jerk and stuff like that. You know what?
Yeah.
You know, he could be a jerk to you depending on what you said to him,
Yeah. And I mean, maybe business wise, like maybe I know he's very, strong about his opinions. Like the reason the toy market exists the way it is because he has a strong opinion about how he
Yes.
wanted toys.
Now,
And I could see somebody getting mad at him for that. So maybe that's why he has that reputation.
another big name in Canadian comic scene is Dave Sim. And I
Yeah.
remember when he did the Spirits of an Independent convention, we were this is going back years ago when we did the full size TikTok Tom book. We did two of the Spirits shows. One was in Montreal and one was in Kitchener. And the Kitchener one, I feel bad because I did see Dave Sim walking around, but never approached him to talk to him because it's just like, you know, we were sitting at our table doing our thing, and that was it.
Yeah. I met Dave Sim once when I was pretty young. I was like 12 or 13 years old. And he was doing a signing at Silver Snail. And I might have even been younger than that. And I did I love Cerebus comics. I thought they were really cool. And I did this little wooden cutout of Cerebus from my shop class. And I carved it out and I painted it and everything. And then I brought it and I thought, oh, I'd show it to him. I'd say, oh, look what I made in shop class. And he's like, this is amazing. And he was showing it to everybody. And then afterwards, he signed the back and he said, now it's an official piece of merchandise.
Nice, nice.
And I was like, awesome. Like, I felt so big. Like, I was like, look at this, you
No,
know?
that's great. That's great. And again, you hear stories about him being a jerk, but you know, most of the people I talk to, they said he was super nice.
Yeah, yeah. And again, you're probably right. There are people he could have been a jerk to, but
Yeah,
as far as
but
fans
I,
go, he was great.
but I would say for one comic publisher and comic creator that Canadian, is Canadian and that represents Canadian comics, I would say is Dave Sim.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, McFarlane is good also, but I mean, he hasn't published his own stuff. He's been working for other companies. I mean, he's working, he owner of Image or whatever. But Dave Sim started off on his own, did his everything on his own, start to end.
That is a bit of the spirit of Canadian comic books. I mean, it's not like we get mad at people who sell out, like your Dave Sims or not, or your Todd McFarlane's and your Dale Keown's
Yeah,
we still consider them Canadian, but there is a certain amount of like pride in independent comic books. It's a little bit more on the European side
yeah,
than Americans. Like we don't have to have like when I see stuff in the States, like when I go to comic book shops in the States, the indie stuff is really small.
it is. It is small. But again, you know what? It depends on where you're at. I mean, even in Toronto wise, I mean, you go closer downtown, you'll see a lot of mini comics, you'll see independent comics. As soon as you get into the suburbs, less and less.
Yeah, well, I mean, Big Island is a great example of
Yeah.
place that like that place is the reason why things like well I heard what's his name from Scott Pilgrim, he worked there for a while.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, apparently he worked at Big Island for a while.
Brian O'Malley, right?
Yeah,
That's
Brian
his.
O'Malley. So
Yeah.
a lot of people sort of, whether they worked there, whether they just used to go there, like there's a few stores in Toronto that really sort of breed
That's it. Yes.
indie comics. So
So so personally, would you say from growing up, what would you say, you know, Dave Sim, Scott Pilgrim, and Vortex Comics are like three of the biggest Canadian comics that, have influenced both of us, really.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I hate to say Captain Canuck hasn't done anything for me.
For me, it's the character, like the idea of the character is it's very Canadian, but it's almost like it's almost like it's a slight parody of Canadiana.
Yes, yes.
It's almost like he belongs in Alpha Flight. You know what I mean? Like, and we were
But
talking about Alpha Flight.
on the other hand, you know what? I Captain Canuck, I remember looking for the issues, just never had any interest in reading. Mind you, I have read a lot of Alpha Flight books, and they weren't bad. They weren't, you know.
They weren't bad, but they weren't accurate tellings of Canadiana. You know, it's so they were sort of like, I mean, if you have a character named Puck, you pretty much
Yeah.
crossed the line.
Yes. Yes.
But
So
yeah,
I think that's a good way to end Canadian comics.
definitely on Puck and Captain Canuck.
Yes.